Hi everyone, my name is Dena. I'm back today with another video for PotomacBeads. Today I'm going to show you how to make my Pluto's flower earrings, where we will be using 6mm Potomac pearls, along with some seed beads that we're going to attach to the ear nut of a post earring, so that way it hangs down from the back of your ear rather than from the front. So gather up that list of supplies that's listed down below, gather those up, and meet me back. I'll show you what to do. Okay, so let's get started on this earring. For the thread choice, you will need to have a dragon size 6 thread. And I've got that, how much is this? It's about a half a wingspan or so. That's going to be probably more than you'll need. But you may have to add thread just in case. Just depends on how much, how many times you have to go through your beads. So we're starting off with our pearl, and it is a 6mm pearl. I'm going almost down to the end of the thread, just enough to hold on to just a small amount down here in the bottom. I'm going to go back through my bead in the same direction that the thread's running in. I'm going to do that 4 times. Reason for that is that we are going to create thread bridges around the edge of the pearl. So this is the second time through, or I guess the third time through really. And I'm putting 2 strands on this side of the pearl. I'm now going to flip it over in my hands, and then I'm going to go through it 2 more times and just basically put 2 more strands on the other side of the pearl. Now, of course, you could just do this 4 times and then split them in half and have 2 on one side and 2 on the other. But now you have 2 threads on the one side that you can kind of barely see because it's white, and then 2 threads on that side as well. Okay, so now we're going to start our brick stitch. I've got my 15 sitting up here because they are the silver-lined crystals, so you can barely see them even on the gray mat with the lighting and everything. So I put it on just one of my little blue boxes that I have lying around. It's a jewelry box. So to start off the brick stitch, you always want to start off with 2 on your needle. I'm going to work in a counterclockwise fashion. So I'm going to go through, or go under, excuse me, the 2 bridge threads that I created. Maybe. There we go. To the left of the hole where the thread's coming out of right now. So I'm working in a counterclockwise way. Let those fall to the bead. And then I'm going to go back up through that second bead that I added. And then when you pull tight, they should sit almost on top of the pearl. They're going to be a little wonky, which is fine. It'll work itself out after a couple more beads and everything. To add another bead, just pick up one. You're going to go back under the bridge thread again, just to the left of the bead that you just added, and then pull tight, and then go back up that bead that you added, making sure not to go back underneath the bridge thread again. You'll know when you went underneath the bridge thread a second time because that bead that you just added is going to fall off. So you'll know when you do it. And if that's the case, just pick it up and do it again. So adding another one, and then underneath the bridge thread again, and back through it. And there you go. So the first time I did my samples, I made them in this white color. There is, I think it was 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I forgot to make myself notes from this. Sorry, I had to count for you. But there are 12 11-ohs that are wrapped around my pearl. Now when I did the first one of this earring, I could not get 12 of them to fit. I can only get 11 of them to fit. So if that's the case on this one, then I will show you what to do if you have to, if you can only get 11, but we're shooting for a even number. So if you're able to get 12 on there without it being, kind of mismatched and, wobbling too much, then go ahead and get 12 on all the way around. If you can't and you can only get 11, Perfectly fine. I'll show you what to do if that happens. So go ahead and continue on. I will meet you back at that either 11th or 12th bead, whichever one it is, and show you how to attach the first bead to the brick stitch. Okay, so I'm around to the last bead now, and I can only get 11 on this one again. Sometimes getting different numbers and everything when you do different colors, it could be the size of the pearl, maybe just slightly smaller or slightly bigger. It could be the 11 O's, the coating on some of the 11 O's will add a little bit of depth or dimension to it to make it bigger or smaller. So sometimes those are the cases. If that's what happens with you, then perfectly fine. At least it happened on this one, so that way I can show you what to do if you end up with an odd number. Because this pattern actually works better if you have an even number, but we'll figure it out. So here's number 11. So I'm going to add number 11 to it. And then see how close that is together. With those two beads and everything, I wouldn't be able to get a number 12 in there. So 11 it is. And we'll make it work. So there's 11. Now we want to attach number 1 to the frame and then finish out this brick stitch as well. To do that, we're going to go back through from the top of the bead towards the pearl of number 1. I'm still going to go underneath the bridge thread, but I'm going to choose the one that's on the right hand side just because it's easier. So I'm still going underneath the bridge thread. Then I'm going to go from the back side of number 1 and go back through it. Just like that. Oops. As I cover it up with my thumb. So just like that. And then that completes your brick stitch around your pearl. Okay, so now we're going to add a little bit of the embellishments before we add it to our jump ring. So to do that, we're going to start off with making this little peak up here in the top. Now this is where I'm talking about that if you had 2 beads or an even count, then your peak would look similar to what's down here on the bottom. So I'll show you both, so that way, depending on which one it is that you have, then you'll know what to do. So for the peak, I pick up 3 11s. I'm coming out of that first bead that we added, so that was bead number 1. I'm just going to go straight back down it, and it's going to make a picot sitting right there. Now we have to get over here to where we can add more beads. So I'm going to go back underneath the bridge thread again. I chose the right side, and then I'm going from the back just because it's a little easier for me to go to the back and do this. Maybe. I say that. And my needle doesn't want to go in. Of course. Okay. So going back to the front, I'm going to go back up the right hand side of the picot. You can go through the picot if you want to, or skip it. I'm just going to go ahead and skip it. And then that just kind of helps to define it a little bit more. So you can see a little bit more of a picot. Okay, so we're going to go back down that first bead one more time. And see how the picot's kind of twisting around a little bit. That's fine. We'll fix that on the next step. So now we're going to move to the bead to the left. So go up through the bead on the left. You don't have to worry about the bridge thread anymore, at the moment at least. On this step, we're going to add a 15, an 8, and a 15. And then you're coming out of that first bead that we went through, that one bead on the left, then we're going to go down the next bead that's on the left. So we're coming out of that first one, and then we're going down the next one. When you pull tight, just make sure your 15s sit close to your 11s. You don't want them sitting up in the air. See how they're sitting close to the 11s right now? I know that's kind of off screen a little bit, but that's what you're looking for. So now we need to add our second one. So just go to the next bead in line, and then we're going to add a 15, 8, 15 again. And of course my beads are going to go flying because it's a hard surface. And then we're going to go down the next bead on the left. And then see how the beads kind of want to sit really up closer to the 8-0. Play with your beads a little bit until they both fall and they're now closer to the 11s. So that way your 8-0 kind of sticks up a little bit better. Now this is what your other end would look like if you have an even count. You would go up your next bead. So your even count section of this would be add your 3 11s, go down the next bead in line, and in this case you don't have to worry about going underneath any bridge threads. Just go back through the bead on the right. So we're circling back through again, and we're going to make that middle bead stand out a little bit better. So go back through the bead on the right, and then also that first bead that you added in the picot. We're skipping that middle one, so that way hopefully it'll stand out a little bit more. And then we're going to go back, we're going to go down the 2 beads on the left. Just like that. And when you pull tight, that should allow that bead to stick out a little bit more better for you. Now, to continue on, we're going to do the same 2 rows, or the 2 8-0 sections in the remaining spots here. You have just enough spots to remaining to do that. And then we're going to end up coming out through one of these 2 beads. It really doesn't matter which one. I'll probably end up coming out this one, so that way we can continue on with the same direction. So go ahead and get that finished, and I will show you the next step. Okay, so I am coming out of the left-hand side of that first picot that we added. So here, when I came back through after I added this little section right here, I came down this bead, went up this bead, went through the picot from the right going to the left in the counterclockwise position again. So now I'm coming out of that second bead of the picot, or third bead of the picot. Now this is where, if you have any 8-0s that are a little bit smaller, that are a little bit thinner than some of the others, like this one right here seems to be just a little bit, tiny bit thinner than that second bead that I put on the needle. This is where you're going to want that. Now, when you're doing the even count, and the white of course is much harder to even see, but in the even count it worked out to where it was a perfect size, because you're adding this bead right here. This first 8-0 is where we're sitting, where we are adding at the moment. So it worked out just fine. When I did the second one and I have an odd count, it was really tight. So I just went through whatever beads I had sitting out, and I just picked out 2 beads that were just slightly smaller. Those are those 2 beads right here. So the first one that we're going to add, and then the last one that we're going to add in this row. Those are going to be the tinier beads. Seem to work a little bit better using the tinier beads. So if you have any, if you can find them, great, use them. You'll be able to use them in this one. So like I said, we're coming out the left hand side, adding the 8-0 on the thread. We're going to go up the 15, the first 15 that was sitting in that next section that we added. And then when you pull tight, see how it kind of just barely fits in there. It still fits, but it still works. Going through the 8, going to go through the next 15. And then we'll add our second 8 on this round. And then we're coming out of that second 15, we're going to go into the first 15 of the next portion. And then my needle's coming out of the 8-0 right now. I try to play with my lighting a little bit too. Hopefully that's a little bit easier to be able to see. And then go through the 15, you add another one, another 8. Then you're going to go through your picot again, And then see how nicely that fit with just a normal size 8/0 in between. So if you're doing an even count, then that's the way it should fit. It should fit pretty good. If you're doing that odd count, like I said, it may be a little tight, so try to find your smaller ones. And I'm just going around since this one's so short and simple. Of course it's short and simple, and then I get my thread all wrapped around everything. That's the way the day's going. Okay. So getting around to the last one here. And then adding my other tinier one, at least hopefully a tinier one. See, everything's kind of buckling a little bit. It'll work itself out in the end. So I'm going back through that first bead in that picot again, just like what we did on the other side. So I'm coming out of that last 15, going through that first bead in the picot, and then pull tight, and it will buckle a little bit. All you have to do is just wiggle it around a little bit. And like I said, it will buckle some, but if you kind of pinch down a little bit and massage the beads around, it kind of works itself out. So I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next step right away, which is adding your wire guard. Now the wire guard itself is not going to be difficult to add. Every single time I add the ear nut, I always put it on backwards. So if I put it on backwards again, please don't laugh. Because I laughed at myself many times. So we're going to add our wire guard. So go up the one side first of the wire guard, bring it down to the product, go through the second side of the wire guard. Do not go back through your bead yet. You need to add your ear nut. Now on the ear nut, you have to think, okay, we're wearing a post earring. So you would think that that would have to be facing you. But in reality, this has to be facing you because your post is going to be going into that hole. So you have to make sure that the hole is facing you and not the rounded portions. And this is what I mess up on every single time. So let's see if I can get it done the right time, first time. I'm going to go through the rounded portion, because here's the rounded portion on the back side. I'm going to go through the rounded portion. We're going to try the top, going from the left to the right, and see if that works. Because I do this wrong every time. Okay, we're going to pull that down. Did I do it? Nope. Like I said, every time I always do it backwards. Okay, so let's fix that. Okay, so this hole did not work correctly. So we're going to back out of that hole. And then we're going to go through the other hole going in the same direction though. So if you mess up, that's all you have to do. Just back out and then hold your ear nut and go in the same direction but through the other hole. And then when you get it to sit on the ear wire or the wire guard, it's now sitting in the correct position. I knew I was going to do that. So go back through your bead now so we can get that wire guard to sit. And then just like every other time, reinforce it at least once. This is a very, very lightweight earring, so you may not have to do it more than that, but reinforce it at least once. And then go back through your beads. And then now your ear nut is attached to your earring. So now all we're going to do is I'm going to go around the outer edge of the beads, that outer edge that we just added at the beginning of this segment, hopefully with not going through any other sections or missing beads or anything like that. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. My 15. Oh, wait, no. Okay, I'm losing it. I'm good. Sorry. I'm losing it. I was thinking I was coming out of this bead. I'm actually coming out of that last 8/0. Okie dokie. So, let's get around to this thread, our starter thread. So I'm going to go back through that first bead in the picot, I'm just going to skip the second bead if my needle will let me. Go down the third one. And then I need to go down that next bead in line. And then now I am back to the starter thread. I'm going to tie my knot. So right over left, left over right. I always do mine where I take the shorter thread, make a loop, have that shorter thread go away from me, make another loop, have that shorter thread come towards me. And that seems to work as well. And then burn it down, or burn it off first, and then burn it down. And of course, this is really hard to see at the moment, so I'll fix that in a minute. And then now your earring is set to where you can put it on your ear, or you can just do the quick little mock-up like this, and your earring is complete. Thanks so much for watching my Pluto's flower earring tutorial. This was a fun one to design, so I hope you enjoyed it as well. Again, if you're missing any supplies, that list is down below, along with some links to PotomacBeads' website, so that way you can purchase anything that you needed. So thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for the next video, because I know it's going to be a good one.